very warm welcome to everyone, all our staff, all our visitors. I'd like to start the meeting off with a karakia, and I ask a Deputy Chair of Strategy and Policy, Councillor Apatu, to perform the karakia.
Manaki tia mai mātou me a mātou mahi I tēnei wā. I runga I tō ingoa tapu. Āmeni.
Amen.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to announce that the meeting is being live streamed today, and some members and officers are zooming in. Is that correct, Lynn? No zooming in this morning. But I'd like to also welcome our viewers on live streaming, and just let everybody know that the councillors access their agenda papers through their iPads, so they need to be looking at their devices, and also to remind councillors to make sure that your devices are away from your microphones so we can hear you when you speak. Thank you. So first item, apologies. We have apologies from Councillor Kerr and Councillor Redstone, and a leave of absence by Councillor Hickey. So could I have a mover, please, at those Councillor Apatu and seconded by Councillor Watkins? Thank you. Conflict of interest, can I remind the committee to declare any conflicts of interest as they arise? Thank you. And item 3, confirmation of minutes. There are no minutes to confirm, so we can pass that one by. And now we'll move on to item 4, Chairperson's update. So this is our first strategy and policy meeting of the year, and we had our initial meeting postponed in March due to the response to Cyclone Gabrielle and the huge effort that our staff were involved in that respect. I would particularly like to take this opportunity to acknowledge our staff, our councillors and our community's huge effort, firstly in the response to Cyclone Gabrielle and now the recovery. With recovery in mind, I'd like to mention some of the achievements to date. The first edition of the Heretaunga Locality Plan was completed on the 28th of April and submitted to the Hawke's Bay Regional Recovery Agency, who are working with government to secure the funding that Hawke's Bay needs for our recovery. Council is working with iwi, partners and the community to develop a second edition plan which will capture more of our medium and long-term recovery aspirations. Our next plan will be informed by substantial community engagement. The planning for this is well underway. Council is also developing our own Hastings District Recovery Plan, which will serve as an investment approach containing the projects Council must complete for our recovery and how these will be funded and delivered. We acknowledge that recovery work has fallen into an already aspirational program of work, so Council will evaluate the trade-offs in the plan around what projects might be reprioritised or delivered in a different way. Our recovery efforts are progressing well. Through the silt task force, contractors have collected over 200,000 cubic metres of silt and have completed over 90% of the household waste jobs received to date. Our residents have now had access restored to them in most cases, with work continuing and getting Bailey bridges installed. Recently opened bridges include Risington, Dartmoor and Whanawhana. On Sunday, State Highway 2, a crucial link north, reopened, reconnecting us with the Wairoa district. While recovery is a big focus, we are also progressing several important business as usual projects. Our annual plan has been drafted and we are currently consulting with our residents on an amendment to our long-term plan that will enable us to deliver the growth infrastructure our district needs. Reserve management plan hearings for the Havelock Hills reserves, Tana, Tainui, Tauroa, Hikanui and Keith Sandsgrove are fast approaching. We are also progressing several exciting development projects across Hastings, a particular highlight being the completion of civil works at 244 Flaxmere Ave. Lastly, but not least, the 4 subcommittees of district development, community wellbeing, Community resilience and district planning and bylaws are busy reprioritising their work streams within the context of recovery and will be providing updates at the next Strategy and Policy Committee meeting. Thank you. And I'll move that that report be received from the Chair and seconded Mayor Sandra. Thank you. All of those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Okay, so we'll move on to item 5, Future Growth Program Update. And Craig Scott, you're in. Does he know he's in the hot seat?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, Craig, you'd like to do a bit of an intro. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Mayor and Councillors. You'll see it's quite a comprehensive report on the growth program update. Mr McLeod, our Director of Growth, is away this week. Carrying on from the Chair's commentary, we've been pretty challenged as staff over the last 3 months, tending to the consequences of the cyclone, which we obviously anticipated before February. So as I said, there's complex aspects in this report, traversing work on the forward development strategy and referencing the infrastructure constraints report was brought to council as part of the preparations for your annual plan and long-term plan amendment processes. So in anticipation that it is a complex suite of projects referred to in the report, we do have our expert staff around the room here, and we'll make best efforts to answer any questions. If there's something particularly complex that comes up, we may have to come back to the committee with that information. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kia ora koutou. I will take the report as read, and I will just outline a few key points. I've mainly been involved through the future development strategy process, and as Mr Cameron mentioned, there's been a bit of a delay through the process, particularly around public consultation. So public consultation was proposed for March, and obviously that could not happen. So at this stage, there has been a delay for about 4 months. We had our first joint committee meeting on the 27th of April, and it was discussed then, and the motion was put forward to request that additional 4-month time frame from the appropriate ministry. And so since then, as discussed at the joint committee meeting, call for opportunities has been drafted up, which is now sitting with the committee to give final approval, and is likely to be sent out at the end of this month. And we are looking at doing public consultation, iwi and hapu aspiration consultation in June, and with public consultation proceeding in July. So that's, with the broader range outside the call for opportunities. Our regional spatial strategy work has been ongoing in the background. Bill Wasley has been preparing a draft report, which is due to us in the next couple of weeks. The growth infrastructure, which is Brett Chapman's the report document that he has undertaken as the constraints report, which is now completed. Plan Change 5 is, which has been sitting with the policy team, has gone through the submissions and further submissions process. And so we're now just working through the analysis of submissions, the Section 42 reports. And there is a hearing proposed for later this year. And lastly, the local area plans, Rebecca Sutton, who's also sitting up there next to Mark Clues, has undertaken a draft report which looks at the potential catchments within Hastings for intensification and the work program surrounding it. So that's all the key points from me. Happy to take any questions or the rest of the team.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Any questions, comments? Ms. Sandra?
Through you, Madam Chair. I'm just interested in the regional spatial strategy and the timeframes. So draft scoping reports coming back in the next couple of weeks to officers. And then can you just talk me through, Craig, the next stage of that piece of work and who will lead that? I know it's coming through the Matariki board at my regional governance level, but I just need to understand how we are feeding into it and what the process is from our end.
Yeah, sorry, so it's probably a question that I might be able to get a bit more information from Ross when he returns, but it is, the draft report is likely to go to the councillors for further discussion and that side of things. It would, by and large, be requiring the feed through the future development strategy, but work will progress, as far as I'm aware, where it can in the meantime. But the future development strategy is going to feed into that, particularly around the growth areas. But obviously, this regional spatial strategy is quite a lot broader than that. I couldn't tell you exactly who's going to take it on board. I'm not sure if anyone else can provide a bit more answer. Mark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's just worth noting that the report that Craig's referring to is a scoping report, so it's no more than that at the moment. But what is really important is that the scope of the spatial plan, so that this report's focused on, needs to be agreed with our PSG and Manawhenua partners before it can start growing wings. So that's a very important part of the process. So because there are other parties involved, we don't actually have a very set time frame for this just yet. It's evolving as it goes. Main thing I think is just to point out that through reports like this, we'll just keep you informed of that and the appropriate points for councillors to be involved. Absolutely, we'll need councillors to be involved in signing off on that scoping study. The other thing to bear in mind is that I think the government, through the Ministry for the Environment, is still looking, as part of the reform of the Resource Management Act and the Spatial Planning Act legislation, for some sample or trial, pilot might be the best word, regions to roll out spatial strategies and new NBA plans with the Ministry's support, so that we can take learnings from that through the rest of the country. So I think there's still been some discussions that I'm not privy to, but others may have been around that for this region.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clues.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, just a further question. So, Mark, is there a TAG group, a technical advisory group, that's been set up amongst the region's officers to lead this? Or not? It's still very much with the two consultants? I just want to know where this is at, because, you know, these things suddenly lose their traction if we haven't got the right framework set up. And so I'm just trying to understand who's doing what.
Thank you, Mr. Clues.
I don't think at this stage there's a formal tag set up. There has been loose sort of tag arrangements in putting into the idea of the draft scoping strategy with the consultants. So there has been some input from staff on that. Rowan, I don't know, do you have any further? No.
No, I'm through you, Madam Chair. No, you're quite correct. I think that's very early days, and I think the scoping report will make suggestions about how the whole process should be managed and who should be on board with it. So I think once we receive that, we'll have a better idea of next steps.
Is that okay?
I'll
Are you
take it
happy
up
with
from
that?
a regional level now,
Okay.
but now I understand, you know, how we're tracking.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Jessup.
Kia ora, thank you. What sort of structures of inclusion, would mana whenua be, does that all depend on how it comes down to you and then how it relates out to us? I'm just trying to understand the structure.
Through you, Madam Chair, is this for the regional spatial strategy or the future development strategy? So, as part of the scoping report that Mr. Wasley is putting together, he has had another commissioner from Tauranga City, Shad Rolliston, working with him, who has been out to the iwi and hapu groups, discussing with them how they would like to be involved. So that will fall through into the scoping report. And then obviously there will still be additional discussions once that's out. So it's not, it's supposed to be coming in, not our directing out for that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Scott. Any further questions? Comments? Oh,
Yes,
Mr.
just
Cameron?
further to that, through you, Madam Chair. So the emphasis of the spatial strategy is one of genuine partnership with mana whenua. And there's, so the whole premise of the scoping report is to capture how that sense of genuine partnership is actually going to work. So it's actually an iterative engagement process rather than a notification process from local government. So, and then also coming, so that's the whole emphasis and philosophy of the development of the scoping report itself. And also coming out of that through that engagement process is the recommendations as to how effectively a technical advisory input is going to occur, and that'll primarily come from officers within obviously the local government side of things, but the emphasis of a spatial strategy too is it's a cross-sector engagement, you know, much wider than your traditional sort of planning land use type scope through to all your different tiers like education and health and etc. So those working structures too and recommendations will come out of the scoping report, and then your governance levels you know, will consider the setup of those groups. If you progress on to actually, I guess, forewarning how those structures are going to potentially work, it's not really in alignment with a genuine partnership approach. So.
Thank you. I was just trying to, like you say, capture, because there's a big difference between tangata whenua and mana whenua. So there's a whole new scope there that we need to utilise and include. Thank you.
Just to add to that, I think there's three key components to the scoping report. One is content. Obviously, the FDS will be part of the feed into that content. Governance arrangements, including with partnership with mana whenua, and resources, and that's both technical resources but also monetary resources and resources for others to participate in the process. So there's quite a lot to do in that report, and there's quite a lot of people to talk to frame that up.
Thank you. Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Chair. So just to clarify, I'm making sure it's all fixed in my head. So I see in the report that we're hoping to have a draft scoping report in the coming month, it says. So, and then that will be circulated with councils and PSGEs and other relevant parties for an initial conversation. And then out of that, we will go out for that further engagement. Is that correct? Yeah, great. Thank you.
That's not to say there hasn't already been some engagement and discussion leading into the preparation of the report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clues. Mr. Cameron.
Probably some further clarification through you, Madam Chair. So the forward development strategy is a process that under law we actually have to follow at present with regards to your future land use structures. And we were on a time frame had to be completed by 30 June 2024. There's a process in place now to try and de-stress that timeline by 4 months. That was moved at your inaugural joint committee meeting. And then, so to be clear, we're on set timeframes and set processes under statute for the forward development strategy work. That forward development strategy work will be obviously a major strategic informing document for your regional spatial strategy work. So that's at a much, well, I guess, a macro level. And it's likely that law will come into effect too around the requirements to do spatial strategy work. But we probably just need to distinguish those, be clear on our distinguishing of those two pieces of work.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cameron. So no more questions, Councillor Apatu.
Thank you for the report. I'm just referring to the growth infrastructure planning and funding section, and where the report identifies wastewater as the most significant constraint to growth. I know previously you've supplied great information about the plans to address this, and also we have dedicated funding. I'm probably just checking in to sort of see how we're progressing the infrastructure.
So who? Thank you, Mr. Chapman. It's a relay here this afternoon.
Through you, Madam Chair, progressing with the detailed design and final alignment. So we're making really good progress at the moment in terms of getting the project to a stage where we can go out to tender. I can't give you definite timeframes at this stage, but we have consultants working busily on the detailed part of the project.
Okay, thank you. If there's no more further comments or questions, could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Sholem and a seconder, Councillor Butto. I'll put that to the vote. All of those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against? Okay, carried. Okay, we'll move on now to item 6, and I welcome Kim Herrick. Thank you, Kim. We had a fantastic workshop on this, so it's great to see the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for having me today. Really, the purpose of today is I'll take the report as read, and I really wanted to talk you through the next stages of the CBD strategy. So what the next stages are all about is largely consultation. We want to have multiple touch points with the community so that we get everyone's voice feeding into the final strategy. The first stage that we'll go through is all about themes, and there we'll have a mixture of meetings and surveys, as well as it will mainly be meetings and surveys actually for that first stage. We'll touch base back with council to get approval before we move to the second stage, which is all about actually getting the draft vision, goals and priorities going through. Again, we want to get everyone's feedback on this, so we'll be going up and using a mixture of meetings, the surveys again, and also potentially the pop-up store that was used for the Queen Street development, and we'll use that as well, so that we get everyone's feedback in there. Then from there, so that takes us through to September. Again, it's another approval point, and then hopefully by the end of the year, we will have a final strategy. I'm happy to receive any feedback and incorporate that into the report and take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kim. So we have a question or perhaps feedback from Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, and thanks for organising the visit by the Lord Mayor, ex-Lord Mayor of Adelaide. There were several opportunities raised during that session that were or could be seen as actually quick fixes and or quick solutions, quick ideas, and I don't see any of those listed as itemised at this stage, and I don't honestly think we needed to wait until the end of the year to start implementing some of them. So I'd like to see what, again, from notes that were taken, what they are and what ones we can get underway with.
Thank you.
Yeah. Through you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Councillor Harvey. Yes, there were some quick wins, and we are working through things at the moment. We envisage that as we work through this process, we're probably going to go in tandem. So there will be things that we start to put in place because we know that they're needed now, but we're not going to preempt anything at this stage before we move forward.
Can I just request that for the next, I'm not sure when the next strategy and policy meeting is, but at least before then or for that meeting, can we have a list of what they are, please, so that we understand what they are and can feed back in to getting them underway? And, you know, I look at the underutilisation of the street that we got government funding for street innovation program. We've had 2 events, I think, in that area when we've got the opportunity to use that all the time. So that was one that was very clear from not necessarily the internal session, it was from the walkabout.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Harvey, that was good feedback. Any more feedback? Oh, Councillor Butto.
I just wanted to really acknowledge the success of the previous 10 years of the CBD strategy. Leaving school 10 years ago and then coming back 5 years ago from university, the change in the CBD was night and day. And it actually, you know, makes me excited to be in Hastings and really excited to see what the next 10 years of the CBD strategy can achieve and do. So,
thank you. Okay, thank you, Councillor Butto. Any more comments or feedback, questions? Okay, thank you. So I'll put, do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Mover, Councillor Sholem, seconder, Councillor Jessup. I'll put that to the vote. All of those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Okay, carried. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim.
So that actually draws a close to our meeting, a very short but succinct and meeting. So I'll draw a close, and could I please have a volunteer to for a closing karakia? Well, if not, I have a very short one here. Kelly? Okay. Thank you. Te aroha, te whakapono, te rangi Māori, tātou, tātou e. Love, faith, peace, we are together. Thank you, and I'll declare the meeting closed.
Needs to have that to normal.
One out of my, under the